Leisa Holland-Nelson, co-host of Culture Club HTX, and I'm so excited to be here today with my co-host,
Shavonnah Schreiber.
Yes.
Yes.
And our incredible guest, Jeff Gremillion of CityBooks.
Hi.
We
so
are
excited.
Thanks for
so
having me.
honored to have you here. Look at this, everybody. Oh my God. Just
Not
thrilled.
too shabby, huh?
I mean, every cover should be like
Tell her. I feel the same. But Jeff, tell us about yourself. Tell us where you're from and how you got to
Houston.
becoming a journalist, even.
So I grew up in a small town in Northeast Louisiana, town of about 4,000, called Faraday.
Faraday, okay.
Famous for being the hometown of the famous cousins, Jerry Lee Lewis, Mickey Gilley, who has Houston ties.
Yes.
And their cousin, the Reverend Jimmy Swaggart.
Really?
They're all 6 months apart in age. We've lost two of them in the last couple of years.
Yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis and Mickey Gilley, right?
I think the Reverend still kicking, but
I think so.
But they learned how to play the piano. They all have a distinctive piano playing style, even though they have different genres and different approaches. But they're very similar in their musical style. And anyway, that's the little town I'm from. And I fell into journalism and it's kind of a funny story. As a kid. A little kid, like third grade or something, there was an opportunity that we were making, as an art project, we were making Mother's Day cards.
Yes.
For our moms at Mother's Day time. And the teacher opined as we were going to recess, well, we should have some kind of a poem that we put inside these cards. I'll think about that over recess. I wrote a silly little child poem. My mom is pretty, don't you think? Prettier than a Valentine colored in red ink.
Oh, that's good. Third grade, that's pretty good. You still remember that, actually.
It was kind of fortuitous. And I actually broke the rules of the school. I could have gotten in trouble. I sneaked into class during recess to put the poem on the teacher's desk, unsigned, because I wasn't supposed to be in the building. B,
right.
What if it was a terrible poem?
Right.
Once we got back in class, she discovered the poem. She read it. I guess this is one of the poems that had been submitted for your Mother's Day cards, and it was a hit. Everybody liked the poem. I want to use that poem, and so then I claimed it.
Of course.
And so from about third grade to about seventh grade, I said I wanted to. When people would ask, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I would say a poet, because I had gotten validation for that.
Right.
So I was going to be a poet. And sometime around that point, my dad, who was an appeals court judge, actually, he's a sweet man, but pretty practical, said, when you keep saying poet, I think when you say poet, what you really mean is journalist, because that's actually something you can major in college. And journalists are slightly less likely than poets to drown themselves in the sea.
That's true. Fair point.
So from about seventh grade on, I was like, okay, I'll do this journalist thing. And honestly, I pursued it through high school, editor of the school paper, and actually got a scholarship to the University of Louisiana. It used to be called USL, the Raging Cajuns. Now it's the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
At Lafayette. Is that Ooh La La?
Mm-hmm.
Look at me.
Mm-hmm.
I know a few things about a few things.
Mm-hmm. And so I got a scholarship actually to work on the yearbook staff. Who knew there was a scholarship for that, right? When those days,
yeah, no joke.
So that was how I.
So, I actually think your father was right, because I think good journalists and good writers, it is like poetry. Like, you can tell the difference between like not that good writing and really great writing. And it does. It feels like poetry. So I think that was actually right. Okay.
I think there are often. I think writers and journalists, you're either a writer who has to struggle to do the reporting well, or you're a reporter who has to struggle with the writing.
Yeah.
Very few people can do both. I'm definitely more of the writer. I do reporting, and I hope I'm decent at it, but that's the struggle for me. I don't like confronting people with hard questions and digging for dirt and all that stuff. I like to put it all together and
make it beautiful.
And pithy language. So
So then how did you decide from journalism student and graduate, okay, I'm going to start a magazine? How'd that happen?
Well,
that's a big leap in the middle.
Yeah, that's a big leap.
Well, so I wound up going to graduate school in New York, and I was lucky enough to get into Columbia. And there was, in those days, there was actually you could get to choose a track: newspaper, broadcast. I think the three tracks were newspaper, broadcast. Maybe you could choose between TV and Radio, I remember. But there was a magazine track. I mean, that
really?
Yeah, you could choose to be a magazine guy. So, and I think I always sort of wanted to be a magazine guy. I think that was kind of part of it for me too, even as a kid. Like I remember reading People magazine.
I would say, what was your favorite magazine as a kid?
People magazine as a kid.
Yeah.
Eventually magazines like Vanity Fair. I used to love a magazine called Details.
Yeah.
Details was fabulous.
Kind of a downtown men's magazine.
Yeah.
That was so cool, don't you know? But I wanted, so that was always interested me. And I like magazines because it is a journalistic outlet and you have to tell good stories, but it is a journalistic outlet. You have to tell good stories, but there's an artistic element to
creative,
it. There's graphic design, there's imagery, you're working with photographers, you're working, there's
layouts, all that.
So I liked all of that stuff. When I visualize a story in my head, it's not just words on a page. I visualize a headline and an image and a striking design. And so so I always found magazines more.
So you took this magazine track, but did you go work for a magagazine before you decided to start your own? Okay.
I worked
and maybe many magazines.
I did. I worked for quite a few over the years. Probably the one that's the most well known is Entertainment Weekly. I was
most people very close.
Started by it's
entertainment.
It's a spinoff of People magazine.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny that I wound up there.
Wow.
Once upon a time, I used to say that, you mentioned that I worked at Entertainment Weekly and people would know it and think that was kind of cool. Nobody knows about these old magazines.
Really?
Very fewer and fewer. But
that's so interesting.
It was kind of a big deal at the time. I really thought I had arrived.
Yeah, I think it was a big deal.
So how did you get to Modern Luxury and how long were you there before?
So I bounced around a lot. I kept going back to New York. I would leave New York for try out some other magazine, some kind of other opportunity somewhere. I lived in Aspen. I was senior editor of Aspen magazine. I actually did a tech magazine for a minute, like just about 1 minute in San Francisco.
Yeah. Which one? What was the name of it?
I don't remember.
It was only 1 minute. It
was a small one.
Okay.
That lived and died quickly. It wasn't. I don't even remember. It's somewhere in my memory box.
Name should not be mentioned. Yeah.
It was a business to business one. It wasn't. It was really inside tech.
Yeah.
I had
why was I doing that? What were you doing?
Because that's what everybody was.
Because it was in San Francisco.
It was like the mid-90s, and everybody was doing tech in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So kept winding up back in New York. Then I had an opportunity to go home to Louisiana. You remember the TV show Evening Shade?
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds. The story there was he was a retired, I believe I remember this right. He was a retired newspaper man from a big city, and he was recruited to come back home to run retired or whatever, is going to run the little country newspaper. I kind of had an Evening Shade moment, much too young. I was in my early 30s, and people got together in Lafayette, Louisiana, home of Ooh La La.
Yeah.
And they were starting a newspaper, and they recruited me to come down to run that newspaper, just to help them launch that newspaper. And it was a lot of fun. And I thought at like 31 or something, I thought this is the rest of my life. I'm going to go home and build a little house and build a little newspaper and have my Evening Shade moment. And after a couple of years, I missed big cities, and I almost went back to New York. I had an opportunity to go work for Men's Journal magazine, another one that people used to know. Probably people haven't heard.
I think people still know Men's Journal.
Yeah.
But before I accepted that job, I was contacted by the Modern Luxury people, and they were starting and Modern Luxury, of course, is a national magazine kind of chain. They have magazines in all the cities, and they were starting their Houston version at that time. And they reached out to me and, would you like to come and help us start our magazine? And I thought, I really wanted to go back to New York, and I thought, why would you do a magazine outside of New York? But I thought, you know what? I'll give it a shot. If it's as I mentioned, I kept leaving New York and going back, and leaving New York and going back. And at this point, I thought, I'll probably wind up back in New York, but why not give it a whirl?
Sure.
I thought I'll stay in Houston for a year and see what happens.
How many years
20
later?
Years, it'll be 20 years.
Is it 20? Was it 2003 you started? 2005.
January of 2005.
Wow.
You came here.
I came here.
To start Modern Luxury.
To start Modern. And I did that for 11 years.
So when was the launch party? Was it in 2005? Was it right?
It would have been, it would have been March of 2005.
So, of course, here I am off track again, but
where are we going?
So I met Jeff when he came to Houston to launch Modern Luxury, and it was kind of this perfect storm. Hotel Zaza was opening in the museum district, and the people from Turnberry in Florida were going to build a high rise in the Galleria Turnberry condominiums, which was like the place in Florida, and they're coming to Houston. And what was the other thing? Oh, what was it? Stanford Financial.
Stanford Financial. Yeah.
I mean, the four entities were blowing and going together and really running the town, probably for 2 good years. I mean, it was just, longer than that, maybe 4 or 5 years. I think Turnberry finally gave up and couldn't sell the properties, so they left. And then Stanford, unfortunately, what happened with that? And modern luxury is still around, right? So and Zaza's still around. And Zaza's still kind of chugging along.
We just did our photo shoot, our fashion shoot in our next issue. We
did you do it
to the Zaza?
Lovely.
Well, that is so perfect because so it was all just so much fun. It was so much
fun years.
And you were like leading the pack. Nobody really cared much about anything but those 4 entities. I know I was running with the people that were caring. I was following them around trying to be somebody. I was nobody, but I was trying to be somebody. So I was with some real somebodies at the time. Remember we did the hard hat tour at Zaza?
I do.
It was your party.
I do.
Yeah.
No, those were fun years. Houston really, really embraced modern luxury.
It was amazing.
Me and embraced modern luxury. There was it'd been a long time since anything new had come into
it was
a
amazing
luxury lifestyle space.
That was 2005. That was after we got the first Super Bowl, or around the time we were getting the first one.
That was a year after.
Yeah, after the first one. We had
the wardrobe malfunction was the
right. We had all this development that happened from the first Super Bowl, and so then I think just in general the city was busy.
It was so cool.
So that makes sense.
So fast forward about 11 years, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about
CityBooks.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I was embraced as the editor of Modern Luxury, as much as I enjoyed, I'm still proud of it. We're direct competitors now.
Yeah.
But I'm still very proud of the longevity that magazine has had and the place it has in the community. But it's corporately owned. You know, the formula there is there's a certain portion of the magazine that's national content, a celebrity story, a fashion story. It's never produced in Houston. It's LA or New York or whatever, Chicago. And then a small portion of the magazine you produced that was local content, and that shrunk over the years. They did more and more national lessons, and I'm not criticizing them. I still
just the formula.
Yeah, it just was, and it became less and less of a creative outlet for me, you know. And I at a certain point, you know, you begin to see the future of the industry and the future for yourself. And, you know, I realized that if I ever was going to be in a position to really create a magazine and run it the way I want to, put on the cover what I want to put on the cover, and, you know, and make the journalistic and creative statement that I want to make, I'm going to have to do it myself. You know, I didn't want to go back to New York at that point, you know, and there wasn't anywhere else to go here, you know, in Houston, you know, that I felt like it would be any different. So
you started a magazine, small thing.
Well, I came to some crazy friends who thought it was a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I mean, loved everything about it. The name, the deck.
Advisor all along. Yes.
I just loved it. I thought it was great.
And so 11 years, CityBook has been...
No, CityBooks not 11, is it?
No, it's 8.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, 8 years.
He's been here for 20.
Got it. So CityBook is 8 years. And now what's new and what's next for CityBook?
You know, doing what a lot of print forward media companies do. We've invested in developing a website.
Yes.
I spent, you know, nearly 25 plus years of my career having weekly or monthly deadlines. And then you get into a web
daily,
and it's daily.
Yeah.
You know, daily. So at this late stage of my career, I've become a daily journalist.
Yeah.
So you know, so really investing in that and watching it grow, and
that's awesome.
And you know, rethinking. We'll always be. I think our brand is print. You know, I think that's what people think of.
Well, it's CityBook, right? The book. So yeah.
But eagerly thinking of other ways to develop the brand, and you know, do we trickle down in Houston, or do we spread out to another city?
I mean, CityBook can be anywhere.
Is that what business people say? It's scalable.
It is scalable for sure.
Very important.
Well, and I think to your point about other publications, that even though they may have a certain city's name on it, you can tell from the content that it's more of a national kind of overlay. So I think there is a thirst for hyper local stories, business highlights, etc. Houston and beyond. And
that's been our commitment from the beginning. We have great competitors that we compete in that market for advertising. We're the only one that has that commitment. We're not. We don't have magazines in every city. We don't have a sister office in Dallas producing similar content. We're at the moment fully committed to 100% Houston, and that's reflected in everything.
As are we.
Yeah, right. Well, but even as are we, we've talked about that too. So it's Culture Club HTX, but it could also be Culture Club AUX, right? For Austin, or DAL, or
ATX, DFW.
Yeah,
Aspen.
Right. We're scalable too. So no, we get it. Okay. So how can people find out more about you, about CityBook? What do you want people to do?
And what can we do for you?
Well, you can find the magazine. You can subscribe to it. And if you go to our website, you find us online at HoustonCityBook.com. There you'll find daily updated content. You'll find.
She subscribed.
I do.
I do too.
You'll find links to there's a digital flip version of the print magazine.
Love that.
There's a podcast. We've dabbled in podcasting. We have a whole season of a podcast we've done on there as well. And as far as the print product, it's all over town. You can subscribe to it
and get it mailed to your house directly. Okay,
that's at citybookcares.org actually, because a portion of proceeds from our subscriptions we share to charity.
Oh, I love that.
So you can subscribe, but most people can find it for free. We make an effort to get it in all the hotels and the restaurants and the spas and the salons and the retail shops, and we're all over the city.
So look for. And you can't miss this cover. No.
I'm going to wallpaper the bathroom. Maybe I'm not sure.
She gives us like 300 more so we can just put this cover. Repeat it. Yeah, you can't miss this one. So yeah, okay. So then the next issue, this is the current issue. The next issue will be out when? So we can be looking for it.
Late summer.
Okay, so we'll be on the lookout.
We call it the sexy. If this wasn't sexy enough.
It gets better, folks.
We have an annual issue we call the sexy issue.
Yeah, I'm not in it, by the way.
That's what's coming.
Yeah, well, so then it's incomplete. It's incomplete. Oh my goodness.
I always have to throw something in.
It's incomplete if Lisa's not in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been so much fun. And to be continued. I feel like we have much to talk about.
Much more. We'll keep you in our, what do we call our club? It's
the crew.
Thank you.
The Culture Club HTX crew. And we will talk about the new issue. So as we get closer to the release date, we'll be sure to talk about it. So
on the radio too.
Yes, we can be on the lookout and go pick it up. Because we want the places that you distribute to come back and say, we're out. We need more. And then you can say, for a small fee, you can have more.
Absolutely. I'm on it.
Well, thank you so much. And
I'm Leisa Holland-Nelson, co-host of Culture Club HTX. And I'm starting over. And we want you to stay focused, stay fit, and
stay fabulous.
And we'll be back, right?
Bye.